UBC Farm is for teaching and for research, but we do all of that teaching and research within the context of this full working farm and forest. If a community lives in a city, it will always require farms and lots of farmland. It doesn't take much math to figure that out. Basically, when you have that many people living in as dense a population as you do in Vancouver, where you might have between 50 and 150 people living in a single hectare, if you're talking about sustaining their food supply, each one of those people is going to need about half a hectare somewhere in the farms regionally and around the world. So cities depend upon farmland and always will depend upon farmland. What we need is policies that support agricultural land protection, or policies that support, recognizing farms for the value that they bring for a lot of different ecological services, all of these things that would help in farm viability. It's going to have to be urban votes from those 85% who actually hold the power and hold the majority of the votes. So urban people will have to care about rural issues and be able to vote with their votes as well as voting with their dollars when it comes to bringing in elected leaders who also care about the viability of the food supply.
We want to, keep our atmospheric conditions balanced. It takes land to keep that balance too. So when you start to produce fertilizer, it releases the CO2. You need a forest in place to be able to actually balance that so that things don't get out of whack as they are right now. And that was a tool developed at UBC, the ecological footprint, which actually helps you calculate, okay, how much land does it take to produce that fertilizer, and how much land does it take to produce those pesticides, and how much land does it take to produce that fossil fuel and sequester the carbon that it generates.
It's really important to educate the population because 85% of people lives in the city, but I think everybody eats.
Well, basically, the Edible Garden Project is working to try and create a community around growing and sharing food.
City Farmer is a non-profit society, started 32 years ago in Vancouver. The goal is to promote urban farming.
The most difficult step in getting a new community garden started is getting access to a piece of land. So that's kind of the step number one, is to get the municipalities on board, get people looking for garden space and starting to develop that.
People who have backyards and rooftops and balconies, get them learning about the soil and the air and the food that they eat by growing some themselves. As more people get excited about this, there'll be more of an infrastructure, there'll be more resources, people there to help those that want a garden for food, more young people getting involved and trying to make a bit of a profession out of this by there's a lot of people now trying to set up food gardens in people's backyards. People that don't want to do it but have the money, they'll pay, and these people will set up food gardens where they can get fresh food right from their yard supplied to them by these city farmers.
When you're talking about a community that's as densely populated as the city of North Van growing a lot of their food, it's something that's not going to happen overnight. It's something that's not going to be like all of a sudden city of North Vancouver is able to produce all of its own food from within the city boundaries. I don't think that's a realistic goal at all. But I do think that once people start becoming more aware, once people start getting more knowledge, they're going to start to be able to grow their own food. And I think there's a lot of examples of things like in the UK, the Victory Gardens, and in Cuba, where all of a sudden a community was facing food shortages basically, and that really catalyzes dramatic change in a very short amount of time, that we need food now, we need to start growing it, and suddenly a lot more space becomes available to growing food, a lot more people are getting involved. So there's got to be sort of a combination of the community desire to grow food and then probably some external pressures as well.
People are going to have to start eating real food instead of so much processed food. And when they start doing this, they will realize that their own homegrown food tastes better, and in the end is probably cheaper and it's safer.
Food security, it's not just about being fed. It's about having access to foods that are actually going to nourish you. And for a lot of people, that means having access to foods that they can grow themselves. If they don't have any space to do so, they're not going to be able to do that.
See, our priority is to perform a function, to cover a need. And that is the top priority, and everything else comes from that. In 2008, we turned 75 metric tons of food into 25,000 frozen meals. When they buy that $3 frozen meal, it's the same, possibly even better, than giving us that Christmas check. Because the monetary input is very important. But more importantly, when you buy that meal, we need to make another one. And when we make another one, we take some more food away from the landfill, and we train another young person to produce that meal. The environment is a very important issue to me, but the human environment also is too, the social environment in the community, and that has helped at the same time.
Organics at Home is a home delivery company where people can shop for all their groceries, their produce, their dairy, grocery items, household items. We've got it all, and they order online and we deliver to their home. We also offer a market on the weekends that people can do their own shopping as well. Organic food doesn't involve any pesticides or herbicides, so not only is that better for the environment, it's better for us. And also organic farming is more biodiverse, so it allows for more enzyme action in foods. It allows for proper species of birds and bugs, the healthy bugs that we need to aerate soils and pollinate and all of those things. So organic foods is important to the environment. If all farms were organic, it might be sustainable, but that we have farms that are organic and aren't organic, it's really tough for the organic farmer.
There's a lot of stuff going on in the city with regards to sustainability, lots of different organizations, and it's difficult to find out who they are and who's doing what, so we thought that if we put together a portal, it would be a place on the web where you could go and find out. There'd be a calendar.
A lot of people don't know what their ecological footprint is. They don't know or understand where our food really comes from and the food miles that it takes to get our carrots, for example, here. It's about 2,500 kilometers that carrots travel to get to us, and the associated greenhouse gases that are produced in transportation, refrigeration, excess packaging. The long-term vision for urban agriculture is to create municipal agricultural land banks within high-density urban areas by taking underutilized or abandoned pieces of public land and growing food for the local community, local organically grown food that they can access on a daily basis.
It is a work in progress. Like, it really is about the different members of the community coming forward with ideas, putting their proposals together, seeing what will work. They will come together and we'll figure it out. We'll have local food at a reasonable price.
And I think we need to get back to having more reverence for our food and our food supply, and moving to a seasonal food supply. When I was a kid, we didn't have strawberries in January. You had to wait for them to be in season. And so, you know, there's opportunities to just really get back to what I consider sometimes a gentler way of life.
Woke up this morning, I suddenly realized we're all in this together. I started smiling, 'cause you were smiling, and we're all in this together. I'm made of atoms, you're made of atoms, and we're all in this together. And long division just doesn't matter, 'cause we're all in this together. Yeah. I saw you walking in the city. We're all in this together. The city's changing, 'cause we are changing, and we're all in this together. Every 12 seconds, someone remembers that we're all